So as usual, we go look at what's gone on through the month, and I don't think there's anybody in all of Santa Clarita that doesn't know about Las Vegas, when pure evil in Las Vegas went and killed 59 people and wounded over 500 others. And in that group, that was watching the concert, there were a lot of people from Santa Clarita there. We know that's true. And two of the individuals that were there were John and Travis Fiffin. And John was Travis's father, and Travis had, instead of leaving the area and running, they stayed behind, and Travis was bandaging the wounded. He had bandaged about 14 individuals that were wounded, and when he was shot in the arm. And John, who was shielding a woman, was shot in the back and killed. So it's one of those situations where we all see that you never know what's going to happen. You never know what situation you're going to be in, but whatever happens, there's heroes all around us, and it makes you always wonder, what are you going to do in a similar situation? But these people are definitely some of our local heroes. So with that, Judy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, I'm really glad to see that no one in our audience sat during that time, and of course, this is the big thing with the NFL and so on and so forth. So something else that I noticed this month was a story about Chris Long. And Chris Long has now decided, he is a defensive end, and he has now decided that his whole yearly salary is going to be donated to charities. He ended up at first talking about donating his first, I believe it was his first six games to provide scholarships for students in Charlottesville, and now he's going to donate his next 10 checks to, it says here, launch the page 10 for tomorrow campaign. And so you got to give this guy a lot of credit. There might be some people that talk about doing things that are important and doing things that help the community, but here's a guy in the midst of all this controversy that's actually doing it. We have to give him a lot of credit. For announcements, I think the first thing I just want to I was going to talk about this at the end of the meeting, but it just turned out that it just annoyed me to no end. AB 634 was approved by the California State Legislature and now signed by the governor. And, you know, as soon as it was approved by the legislature, Valencia Water Company announced that they were going to raise their rates. And then, not to be outdone, Santa Clarita Water Company comes up and says, I'm going to raise your rates too. And if that wasn't bad enough, then the state of California says, you know what, I'm going to put $20 a month on your water bill so that you can pay for the Delta conveyance. And it just seems like this is just lots of different ways to get around Proposition 13. And in some cases, it's really going to hurt some of our residents that are not, that don't make the huge amount of money. So this is all after we've listened to 2 years of CLWA board telling us that consolidating is going to save us money. And so they told us, when I went up to the meeting the other day, they said, oh, well, the savings are included, so that it would have been more if we wouldn't have created the savings. But something tells me that that's not all good. You know, we have in our community people that write for the different papers, and Sally White's been writing at the Signal. There she is, and she talked about fighting the water rate explosion, and I've got to give her a lot of credit for that. So if you live and you get your water from the Santa Clarita Water Division, you got one of these letters, right? And when you got one of these letters, it came in a nice white envelope. Most people thought it was junk mail. And I've talked to several people that said, oh, yeah, I saw it, and I didn't read it. I just threw it away because who wants to read it? Well, if you went through and you just kept reading, you know, and you went through the first page and the second page and the third page, and you got to the back, what you would find out is that this was your ability to protest it, because they're doing this on a Proposition 218 ballot situation. So you have until November the 20th to write a protest. I'm going to write a protest, number one, just because I think that we've been lied to for the last 2 years. The second is because I think that this is, by putting this on the back of a white piece of paper and in any way trying to disguise it, normally when you get something like this, even from the city, it comes with a separate item for you to fill out and something to return it. They're looking to just see what they can get away with. And you know, it's almost impossible to stop one of these things on a protest because you have to get 50% plus one person. And so to hide it is just, to me, is just unconscionable. I'm not happy with those guys at all. The next thing I wanted to talk about was Columbus Day. If you read the Gazette come Thursday and Friday, you're going to hear more about Columbus Day. And you know, there was a campaign to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, and I had no idea. I kept asking people, why do we want to do this? You know, what's going on here? Well, in doing research for that article, I found that this is another United Nations issue. This is another situation where the United Nations, like Agenda 21, is going to try to tell you how to live and think. So in 1977, the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Population in the Americas was sponsored by the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, and they made up this big discussion that they were going to change Columbus Day in the United States. Now, when you look at my article, when you see Thursday, you'll see all the countries that celebrate Columbus Day, but the only one that they're attacking is the United States. And to me, it's just another reason why the United Nations is not a very great organization. Rick Drew is also one of our authors. You see him in the Gazette also. He was in there this week, and he wrote an article about Burmite. So, I mean, we're getting more and more people to write stuff, and that's really a great thing, I think. Coming back from the Senior Center, they're going to have their a discussion about the Salem witch trials on October the 25th from 10 to 11 at the Senior Center, if you're interested. They're also going to have a Veterans Party meet and greet on October the 27th from 1 to 2. Newhall, the Community Center on October the 27th. The Rotary, in conjunction with the city, will be having their annual pumpkin decorating and costume contest. And it's free. If you have grandkids or kids, there's 3 age groups of competition, 4 and under, 5 to 9, 10 and over. We had a really great time. Some of the judges are returning. My wife and I will be there. The 4 times will be there. Andrew Taban and Nick will be there. And Ken and Debbie Chase will be there to judge the contest. And we should have a really good time there. But it's a week from Friday, and admission is free. Halloween at the Senior Center, October 31st from 11:30 to 12:30 p.m. They're going to have a luncheon, and then we can go home and hand out candy to all the kiddies. We just want to remind you that on November the 8th at 10 a.m. at Veterans Plaza, they're going to unveil the Veterans Memorial. Should be in place there, and it culminates a 2-year effort by Bill Reynolds to get this thing through the city. It's finally approved, and we should finally see it coming. One of the organizations in Santa Clarita that I'm really happy to be associated with now is the Salvation Army. Jerry Bloom is sitting in the audience. He's going to be here next month to talk about the Salvation Army, but they're going to have their kettle kickoff, you know, for all the kickoff for when the bell ringers are going to be in the community and collecting money. And when I talked last month about what they've done in some of the major world activities, but there's also a list of all the things that they've done right here in Santa Clarita. So he's going to tell you about those kind of things, and I think it's a great organization. And if you want to come join us, this also is a free event on November the 16th in Newhall at the Salvation Army headquarters, Santa Clarita Salvation Army headquarters. Next month in November, Councilman Miranda said that he is going to show up, so we'll look forward to that. Also, Mr. Bloom from the Salvation Army will be there to tell us more about the Salvation Army and opportunities to bell ring. We can go through our property tax bill, you know, our yearly look through our property tax bill and see what's going on. And of course, those items of interest and our tour of the traffic command post will take place as well. So anyway, we'll try to get all that in. December, we're dark, and then we come back in January. So thank you again for all choosing to come to Canyon Country Advisory Committee, and I hope to see you back again next month.